Hi, everyone. It's so great to be with you again for the latest episode of Get on the Grid with Chessie Roberts. My guest this time is Michael Schwartz, and he and I would like for you to join us in aligning with the energies of co-creation so that this show gives you the best information to your highest good and best outcome. Welcome, Michael. It's so great to have you here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, Chessie. I'm looking forward to working with you.
Wonderful. Excuse me. Got a frog in my throat this morning. A little water, help it out. For those of you who aren't familiar with Michael, he's an author, a lecturer, a holistic and nutritional consultant. He was educated in the workings of the mind as it relates to the creation of one's personal physical reality. With the understanding of the universal principles in hand, Michael was able to change the course of his life, which led to many different benefits and experiences, including the founding of his company, Michael's Naturopathic Programs. He entered the health food industry in 1975, and in the ensuing years he discovered his gift for herbal and nutritional healing. This led him to establish naturopathic practice, and after many years of assisting clients to regain their health on multiple levels, such as physical, material, social, spiritual, and emotional, his supplement company was formed in 1984. He's the author of several books, including the Naturopathic Healing Handbook, and he's written articles for numerous wellness magazines and journals, and is involved in educating the public on holistic wellness through radio and television appearances, and he's the host of The Healthy Self on RadioMD.com. Michael's holistic nutritional consultations continue to benefit people from all walks of life, including world-class athletes and elite performers. One of the things we try to do on the show is to share the balance of body, mind, and spirit. And when Michael's appearance in my life showed up, it occurred to me that I hadn't done too much to help you guys with the body part of this. And I think nutrition is extremely important, and it everything in our lives, both spiritual and emotional. And so I'm thrilled to have you on the show, Michael. And I would love for you to tell us how you got started in this particular path here.
Well, back in the 60s, there was always this statement of getting your act together. And
yeah.
I was going through something, and a friend of mine said, well, if you took the energy out of your stomach and put it into your head, you'd get your act together. That actually made sense. So that got me on the path of becoming, a vegetarian. And it's interesting, when you make one life-changing decision, it changes your entire perspective, it changes your path. New doors open, old doors close, and next thing I knew, I was asking salesmen that came in to where I was working if they knew anybody in the health food industry. And I ended up getting a job in the health food industry as a salesman for one of the national companies.
Wow.
And
I
that
can't
got me
argue
started.
with any of that. I've had the health issue that brought me to you in the first place. As I have cleaned up my diet, marvelous things are happening to my body, and it's clearing up this thing that I didn't even realize was related, and it's clearing up that thing, and I can think clearer and all sorts of things, so I can totally relate to what you're saying.
Well, it's the old adage, there's two of them that are appropriate here. And one of them is you are what you eat, and you are what you think. And it's very hard to separate the two. And this, in fact, it's one of the reasons why diets fail, because people don't realize they have an emotional attachment to the food. And you can't give up anything until you understand why you're holding on to it and how it serves you.
That is very important, because when you and I were talking about this, it occurred to me that I have this real emotional connection to coffee, and that's one of the things I've had to let go of, and it's been quite a challenge. But realizing what you just said, that I was emotionally attached to it, did make it easier to let go of.
Yeah, it's interesting that once you understand something, that's half the battle. The other half of the battle is applying your understandings.
I
That's
tell
the
people
hard
that
part.
all the time. You can know, but if you don't do anything with your knowledge, you're not going to get anywhere, right?
Then you have to question whether or not it's really good knowledge.
Well, I'm going to put a caveat here. It might be good knowledge, but if you don't use it and transmute the knowledge into wisdom, then you haven't accomplished anything.
At all.
I mean, you can have books on the shelves, but if you don't implement any of the information that you've studied and striven to receive, then you don't really get anywhere.
Well, you know, Chessie, it's funny. I call that Friday night baba. And what I mean by that is, you know, everybody gets together Friday night. It's the first social night of the week, and everybody sits around and talks about consciousness and enlightenment and how much they've got their act together. And then you turn around during the week, they find that a particular pattern of behavior has reemerged.
Yeah.
And this is why history repeats itself, because there is not a true understanding of what a person is going through and why they're dealing with whatever it is that they're dealing with.
Absolutely. I can relate to that, because one of the biggest culprits in this issue that I was having was sugar. I had no idea that it was so prevalent in everything. And I OD'd on sugar, and it made me quite ill, quite uncomfortable, and that's what brought me to you. And having eliminated as much of that as possible on a conscious, aware level, implementing that new information about it, I've been able to change my entire life.
You know, one of the things, and I don't remember if we discussed this or not, probably not, but one of the things people can do to reduce their cravings for sugar and alcohol is get an amino acid called L-glutamine and do like 500 milligrams 3 times a day. It reduces the cravings for sugar. And then if they are sugar junkies, well, then they're on their way to diabetes, in which case you would want to bring in some chromium and zinc to help the body, one, facilitate the manufacturing of insulin so you can utilize the sugar in the bloodstream, and the chromium also helps to utilize it as well. Plus, you know, whenever you do anything sweet, throw some cinnamon in there. Cinnamon will also help the body to carry the sugar molecule to the cell so it could use it for fuel.
That's good information.
Yeah, a few
the
things.
Whole thing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the other thing to take into consideration is uric acid buildup, because sugar, when it sits in the bloodstream too long, becomes acidic. That's what eats away at the nerve endings. So if people chew anise and or fennel, that's real good for neutralizing uric acid, and obviously drinking lots of water to try to flush the sugar out of the system possible.
Good to know. The whole point of this particular conversation is that once you get your body operating at its optimum and it's working like it was intended to work and not like we have caused it to work with all the added, I can't think of any other word to use it, but junk that we ingest, and it does so much damage to us, then we can connect on higher levels in so many different ways. And I have heard this for many, many years, but it was one of those things that came to me, and I kind of said, well, yeah, sure, okay. And the realization that this is a fundamental truth of human existence just kind of blows my mind over and over again.
You know, you bring up a really good point, Chessie, and that is people get guidance day in, day out, but they don't listen to it. They don't pay attention when they see it. And because they don't, they end up in trouble. You know, the mind tells you what not to do, and we ignore it, and we end up doing it anyway, and we end up with a problem down the road.
Yes, we do. I sat here after our last conversation and really thought back, and it's probably been 2 years. Every time I'd reach for something, I would hear in my head my guidance saying sugar, and I just completely ignored them.
Yep.
And if you do that, like you just said, you're going to hit with a great big 2x4, and you're going to find yourself in a very nasty situation.
Yeah, one of the things, especially with sugar, because it has such an up, everybody feels good, then there's that crash, there's that insulin release, and then the sugar plummets, and then you get into depression. One of the things that people would benefit from is pantothenic acid. It's vitamin B5, and it supports the adrenal glands, and everybody is under stress, Chessie. And
they are.
With today's society, with the economy being what it is, with ISIS and everything else, I mean, it's just absolutely crazy and fearful. Well, that stresses the adrenal glands. When your adrenal glands become stressed, then it's hard for them to operate at optimal levels. So one of the things that happens is your immune system goes down, your blood pressure goes up, and when the sugar in your bloodstream gets too low, one of the roles of the adrenal gland is to tell the liver to release glycogen, glucose, sugar, back into the bloodstream so the cells have fuel. But if the adrenal gland is exhausted, stressed out, guess what? No communication, low blood sugar.
Right.
So pantothenic acid and vitamin C in licorice will fix that. Also ashwagandha. I also use rhodiola in my formulas for the adrenals. All of those are good, will help to nourish and support the adrenals so they can function properly.
Well, it's been said many, 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 many times by many, many, many different cultures that we are connected to the earth, to the universe, to all of that. But I think what gets left connected to us. And if one thing goes amiss or awry within your own personal system, it's going to cascade out and create other other problems. And without even realizing it, these problems can become part of your everyday life. And yes, they're uncomfortable and they're yucky and but you figure, it's just me getting older. It's me because I'm tired. It's just the natural way of things. But that's not true, is it, Michael?
Not at all. Not at all. People should have, at every age, 80, 90, 100, have vitality and stamina and endurance. The body breaks down only because of what we're feeding it. But if people were to do a more organic, raw diet, at least 60% raw foods, they would slow down the aging process. And if they got rid of all of the junk food and all of the chemicals that they're ingesting and applying to their skin, they would also slow down the aging process and slow down laying a foundation for disease to manifest.
Mike, I go to a chiropractor, and my chiropractor says the same thing, and he says as your body through the chiropractic practice, you youthen yourself. And he went on to say just exactly what you said. You go through this alignment, this getting your body back to where it should be, eat properly, and you'll find out you're a whole lot younger than you felt you were like 3 days ago.
Absolutely, because once all the juices are flowing, the electricity is flowing, and all the cells are getting the information, well, the body can function at optimal levels, the beginning of optimal levels. What really takes it to the next level is supplementation. And I'm a firm believer only because, I built my company out of my nutritional practice, and I know that whatever condition anyone is dealing with, if they will forget the condition, stop owning it, and then just think about the system that's being affected. As an example, arthritis affects the joints. So instead of thinking, oh, my God, I've got arthritis and I'm dealing with arthritis and I've got to take medicine for my arthritis, just say, the heck with it, I don't have arthritis, and what I'm going to start doing is nourishing my joints so that they can function at optimal levels. It's all about nourishment. And along those lines, you need to give your body a high-potency supplement and not some of these new food-bound, food-grown, food-enhanced, because they're all such low potency. And as somebody who earned a living facilitating healing, I can tell you the low-potency supplements don't work for fixing a problem.
Well, that makes sense. A friend of mine once told me that the food that we eat is actually information for our body, and I found that extremely enlightening, because if your body has the wrong information, i.e. the junk food and the low-potency stuff and things that don't benefit it, you're giving it all the wrong information, and it can't do anything with that but get worse, right?
Absolutely. Because if you're not giving your body what it needs, then the body can't do what it's supposed to do. You know, it runs on enzymes and proteins. And the B vitamins are technically coenzymes, so they're putting enzymes into your system along with the probiotics in your stomach, in your intestinal tract. They make the B vitamins. So they're essential. So for a doctor to tell you you don't need supplements, I would find a new physician.
I want to add about what you just said, the probiotics. I make my own kombucha, and I use that as my probiotic. Seems to work very well, and I enjoy the process. But someone told me, and I think they're wrong, but I want to clear it up in my mind and in the minds of our listeners. Someone told me that kombucha does not help you digest food. Is that seems not quite right?
You know what, Chessie? I don't have an answer for that because I am not a kombucha fan. I didn't buy into it. I don't buy into anything that's a miracle.
Well, I'm not calling this a miracle. I'm just saying that it works really well for me as a probiotic. It turned my digestive system around and got it working properly, which it hadn't been, and I didn't even realize it. It's one of those things I was just talking about that sneaks up on you. You think, oh, well, this intestinal issue is just part of getting older, and it isn't. And when I started making my own kombucha and using that, the nausea settled down, and the flare-ups of either, excuse my graphicness here, either diarrhea or constipation cleared up, and everything settled down and started working like it felt like it should. And I found that if I eat something maybe just a little too much that meal, if I do my probiotic right after that, once I realize I've eaten a little bit more than I should have, it seems to settle things down and get it working better, and that's why I was asking.
Yeah, I've not. In fact, I think my wife made some kombucha a while ago. One of our neighbors gave her some starter. I'm not a fan, so I never tasted it, so I have no comment on it. I'm old school,
like vinegar.
too.
Just so you know.
Yeah, and I don't do well with tart, acidic foods.
Well,
but I'm old school, and I think that, you know, the old, if somebody came to me and they were on antibiotics from the physician, I would tell them go get a bottle of liquid acidophilus and drink a third of the bottle a day. So in 3 days, they've gone through the entire bottle and saturated their intestinal tract.
Right.
But I don't know the type of bacteria that's in kombucha.
It is a natural mushroom, that's the best way I can describe it. And it's been used for eons, I think more in the Ayurvedic pathway.
I think so, too, as well.
I think the reason a lot of people think it's a new age thing is because we're just now hearing about it, but it's been around for gobs of years. All right, I didn't mean to take us off topic, but it was just one of those things that popped into my head I thought you might have an answer for. So what's next?
Well, I think what's next for people on one level is to really examine their diet. Ideally, they could do 60% raw, 30% cooked, and 10% junk. And I always make room for the junk for this simple reason. If you're trying to change a family diet, well, you may create a lot of resentment and resistance if the children, your significant other, is not allowed to indulge in some of their favorite foods from time to time. Because the goal is to get people well and eliminate as much resistance to that change as is possible. So I think diet is the first step. And if you're dealing with a health condition, then look for a supplement that addresses that system, gland, organ, or function to help you nourish that part of your body and bring it back to balance and harmony.
That makes perfect sense. I have to admit that when I started reading what I would need to do to turn my diet around to get rid of this insidious stuff, I was appalled. Oh, my goodness, I have to give up this, I have to give up that, I have to give up the other. But I was in such agony that I had absolutely no trouble flipping my diet within 3 days. And I haven't had cravings. I haven't had a desire to go back. I can look at a box of cereal now and think, ew, that is just poison. Put it over there. And the thing is, I think the reason for it was the understanding of what was going on in my biology and how these things that I had thought were healthy and thought were good really weren't. And the understanding of that helped me allow myself to let them go, like we've talked about at the top of the show. And I know it's not that easy for everybody.
No, it takes a good, strong will and discipline, but I think you hit it on the head, Chessie. If the excuse me, when the pain and discomfort get to such a point that you're willing to change, you have a much better chance of sticking to the change. Because once you make the change and you see, oh, my God, I can actually feel good, the discomfort is gone, the inflammation is gone, I can move my hands, I can move my feet, I can whatever, that solidifies and validates that your change is a good thing to move forward with.
I'm going to mute my microphone because the neighbor's cutting the grass, and you just keep talking, Michael.
Okay. So here's some guidelines for nutrients. You should get at least 25,000 IUs, international units, of vitamin A on a daily basis, either from fish liver oil or, if you're vegetarian, vegan, then beta-carotene. Your B complex should be anywhere from 50 milligrams on up, depending upon your stress levels. In my multis, I always double up on choline, inositol, niacin, and pantothenic acid, for the simple reason that almost everybody is dealing with elevated cholesterol. Choline, inositol, and niacin will actually dissolve or burn or emulsify cholesterol. So you have something there that's going to lessen the numbers of cholesterol in your bloodstream. Niacin is also a vasodilator, so that will get rid of cold hands, cold feet, ringing in the ears, hair loss within about 10 days' time, although ringing in the ears could take a little bit longer. Vitamin C, you should take at least 3,000 milligrams a day, more if you're dealing with a problem. You'll know you've taken too much when you get diarrhea. Just back off a little bit and you'll be good there. Vitamin E, I recommend up to 1,000 IUs a day. Check your multi, because right now you're probably getting anywhere from 100 to 400 IUs, but you cannot go from 400 to 1,000 overnight. That will raise your blood pressure. So what you want to do is you want to get a bottle of 100 or 200 IUs and take one of those pearls along with your multi and do that for 10 days. And every 10 days, add in a new 200 till you build up to 1,000 international units of vitamin E on a daily basis. The reason you want to do that is because A, C, and E are free radical scavengers. They will slow down the aging process. Also, get yourself a separate multi-mineral. Do those at night, a half hour, 45 minutes before you go to bed. You will get rid of leg aches, backaches, charley horses, spasms, palpitations, restless leg, TMJ, insomnia, tossing, turning, having a hard time falling asleep, growing pains in children, all of that.
And that supplement was what?
A multi-mineral. See, right now, some people are taking calcium, some take Cal-Mag, some take Cal-Mag Zinc, but they're missing out on phosphorus, potassium, chromium, manganese, molybdenum, iron. You need all of these minerals. So that's why I say a multi-mineral at night.
Many years ago, back way long time ago, back in the 70s, 80s, I had an opportunity to where I had kind of overdosed on vitamin B, and it caused some issues. My neck swelled up and my tongue swelled up, and I couldn't turn my head, and it was very uncomfortable. And ever since then, I've been really full and sensitive to vitamin B. I have to really kind of watch how I take that. But I've just, since all this started, have picked up a B complex, and it seems to be working okay. And this is just me asking a suppositional question here. Could that be because my body actually needs it now and it didn't before?
I would have said that you needed it both times. It sounded like the first time was an allergic reaction to something in whatever it is that you were taking. Because those, it doesn't sound like a B vitamin would do any of that. The only things, there are only 2 B vitamins that people have to be mindful of, maybe 3. B6, you should never take more than 500 milligrams on a daily basis for any length of time. Not good. It will cause nerve damage.
Okay.
Pantothenic acid, which happens to be my second favorite nutrient, if you take too much, you may have too much energy and not be able to go to sleep. So you have to play with that one. The last one is niacin, and only because it gives the niacin flush, and some people get freaked out about it, but it is just a natural reaction to niacin. The body is releasing histidine, so it's kind of like an allergic reaction. You get that bright red, itchy feeling and hot feeling in your arms, upper chest, and face. But it's normal, it's natural, it's nothing to be concerned about.
So menopausal ladies, watch out for the niacin. Confuse things. What about selenium?
Selenium is a fabulous, in fact, it's in my multi-mineral. It's a fabulous nutrient. In fact, for people dealing with cancer, I often recommend about 100 to 200 micrograms on a daily basis. But again, there's a universal teaching, excess leads to rejection. So if you are dealing with something like cancer, you need everything, and you need it in meaningful amounts. But the thing not to do is not to overload the system, because even with minerals like manganese is essential for detoxification, essential for the immune system. But too much of it can create a metallic poisoning in the system. So everything. I
hear my mother saying moderation in everything.
Absolutely. It's a universal teaching. There's 2 of them that I live and work with, Chessie. One of them is everything in moderation, including moderation. And the other is excess leads to rejection. Too much of anything will create an adverse effect.
I'm taking notes while we talk.
And using those guidelines for your vitamins in the morning, your minerals in the evening, and if you have a specific condition, well, then you address the condition in addition to what you're taking, for the simple reason, if you're already taking a multi, still have a problem, well, obviously, you've not found the solution. You've done better, but you've not come to the solution. That's why you need a targeted supplement for that system, gland, organ, or function. Consider this, that before your body can come back to balance and harmony, homeostasis, whatever nutrient is lacking the most, that has to be brought up to baseline so that it's in alignment with all the other nutrients, and now that it's there, now the body can respond. So there's no telling what an individual is lacking in specifically without an extensive, $1,000 blood test, which is not necessary. If you just take a targeted supplement for whatever, usually, depending upon the company, with my products, I guarantee everything, an effect or a result within 3 weeks. You'll know you're on the right track because your body will respond.
I'm trying to formulate a question. I've got so much going on in my head, I can't come up with a cogent sentence. I understand the moderation thing because in the past, my system seems to react quickly to whatever I put in there. Within 2 days, I know if it's too much, not enough, that sort of thing. Do you target this information that you just gave us by symptomology and sort of figure out what's going on that way?
That's one way. The better thing is when I had my practice, and I still work with people, but now they have to be willing to look at the emotional component as well as the nutritional.
Oh, good
But when
point.
I had my practice, I always asked the client, what did the doctor say you're dealing with? Because this way it prevents me and saves me from getting in trouble by diagnosing by symptom. I'd rather that, you know what you're dealing with, number one. Number two, look at what part of the body it affects. And then the third step is that is the part of the body that you address. That's when you get yourself a targeted supplement that is designed to nourish that particular whatever it is.
Gotcha. Well, let me take this a step further. What about those people who don't see an MD? They either have a holistic physician or they don't see anybody, or
well, if they're seeing a chiropractor, an herbalist, an acupuncturist, if they're seeing anybody, and that person has made a diagnosis and they feel the diagnosis is accurate, well, then that's what they build on.
Okay.
Okay? Because faith that some of the people that we're seeing as practitioners actually know what they're doing. And,
that would probably be a good point.
And sometimes, I've gotten clients who have been through 3 or 4 naturopaths who, the medical doctor couldn't find anything. Then the naturopaths start guessing about this, that, and the other, and no one's hitting it on the head. And until you understand exactly what you're dealing with, we could look at symptoms, and I can tell you, pretty much maybe what the condition might be and then what nutrients you need for it.
Right. I can agree with you on that, too. Back when I was a teenager, I had an acne problem that went from my hairline to the middle of my back and front. And
wow.
it was horrific. It was really bad. And my mother was always yelling at me because my breath was so bad. Gee, didn't you clean your teeth today? You stink, all this kind of thing. And they started taking me to a doctor for it, And the doctors were just saying, well, she doesn't wash her face enough. So they've got me scrubbing the skin off of my face and putting these really harsh chemicals on there, which just aggravated the situation. So one day my mother met an internist who was just absolutely a godsend, and he brings me in and sits me down, and he said, I want you to do something for me. And I said, okay, what's that? He said, I want you to go into the deepest part of you and tell me if your head hurts. And for some reason that made perfect sense to me, and I did, and my head did hurt. And he said, does it feel that way all the time? And I said, yes. He says, now I want you to do it again and tell me what you're hearing. And I had this horrible ringing in my ears that I had learned over the years just to ignore. And he said, okay, this is what we're going to do. You're going to go have your tonsils taken out. And I had tonsillitis every 3 days. It was just awful. And what was happening, the tonsils had gone septic. And here the doctors were looking at it and say, you've got tonsillitis, go take a pill. And they'd get a little better, but they never healed. They went from horrible to better, but they never got well. And what they were doing was they were systemically poisoning me. So my mother took me to the doctor, and I was 16 at the time, and they don't usually do tonsillectomies, at least they didn't back then, for people that age because there's such a chance of hemorrhage and all that sort of thing. And she kind of had to sign her life away that said she wouldn't sue the hospital if I didn't make it, and they took my tonsils out. Now, the funny part about this was the next day, 24 hours from the time the tonsils came out, the doctor came in and said to the nurse, I was in a ward with 4 beds, and he said to the nurse, where's my pizza face girl? And the nurse looked appalled, and she said, doctor, she's in bed 3. And he turned around and he said, what did you do to yourself? I didn't know what he was talking about, but all the redness was gone because the poison was starting to leave my body. Yep. And he was just stunned because he'd argued my mother down that this wouldn't help.
Yeah.
So it's what you just said is a truth. Once you find out what it is, you can do something about it.
Absolutely. And what he failed to realize is that the skin is the largest eliminative organ you have in your body.
Absolutely.
As well as a consuming organ. This is why putting makeup on, your makeup should be clean enough that you can eat it out of the jar. If you can't, don't put it on your skin because it's ending up in your bloodstream anyway, and the chemical makeup of it is corrupting the cells. And also,
I use organic stuff. And the thing is, it only takes like 20 seconds for that to get from your skin into your bloodstream, right?
Yep. It's almost instantaneous. It's amazing. That's why transdermal, so many things are transdermal, because it's instant access, so to speak. You know, one of the things with acne is that the diet, because there's so much garbage in the American diet, that the body is trying to slough it off, to get it out of the system so it doesn't corrupt the internal environment and make the individual, give them a degenerative disease, way too early. So it's trying to protect itself by using the skin to eliminate. Also, there's the hormonal issue, and teenagers especially, because they're developing their own identity, some of them where there's doubt and uncertainty, they are going to be more inclined to have acne than other children because the other ones are more confident in who they are and what they're about. It's interesting to see.
I think there's a lot more stress for the teenagers now than there was when I was growing up, just because there's so much more stuff going on and we find out about it so fast.
Oh, absolutely. Time is going by so quickly, it's hard to believe the summer is over and that I've aged another year, and I just had a birthday last week. So it's really crazy. Time is going way too fast. And there's too much stress for
speeding up, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I did read somewhere that because of Fukushima, that the Earth picked up, I think, a second in its rotation, so that time is going legitimately faster by at least 1 second a day. I don't know how.
Doesn't sound like much, but it sure adds up quick, doesn't it?
Oh, it seems to. It seems to. So if people nourish themselves, Chessie, they can pretty much get a handle on any condition that they're dealing with. And if they would like to get more information, I have a couple of websites that
Please give those to us and send them to me so that I can put them in the write-up when I post the show out so that everybody can find this. I think this particular bit of information for our highest outcome and best well-being is very important, so I want everybody to be able to get hold of you. So go ahead and tell them and then send them to me so I can put the links out there. Consider it done.
From a straight nutritional point of view, look at michaelshealth.com. It's one word, and I spell my name MICHAELS health.com. And then for my writings, to learn more about symbology and the emotional aspects of whatever condition you're dealing with, my website of Inner Health Books, and it's INNER, innerhealthbooks.com, and that's where all of my books are.
Okay.
So there's enough information in both of those places to get you on a path of understanding, also knowing what kind of supplement would be best for what you're dealing with. And remember, do not think disease. Think system. Think function, gland, organ. Nourish them. Nourish your body, and it seeks balance and harmony. It will come back to a place of balance and harmony. Medical terms, homeostasis. Just give it what it needs.
As you were talking, an IT line came to my head, garbage in, garbage out, and that's absolutely true with your body, yeah?
Absolutely. Not only with the food you eat, but also the thoughts you entertain.
I have discovered, and this is one of the things that I've got hot button for, and I teach it in all my classes, is self-talk. I think that's one of the most damaging things we do to ourselves is we get a notion in our head and we grind on it. Like you said, don't think disease, think system and that sort of thing. And
absolutely.
One of the things I've discovered through my healing process is that gracious goodness, whatever you think about is what happens. Martial arts say wherever the head goes, the body follows, and it's true with anything, I think, because if you think of yourself as ill, you will be. If you think of yourself as whole and healthy, you might have a few issues, but you will be more whole and more healthy, and the more you think that way, the better you get. And as you do that, you start to look for these things that will accomplish the whole and healthy, yeah?
Absolutely. It's like you're programming your mind. Well, you are. It's not like. You are programming your mind. When you indulge in the negative self-talk, you bring yourself down. When you do positive affirmations and you think in a healthy manner, your mind will find things to validate that and draw your attention to those things that will help to facilitate it as well.
The other part of that is as you consider these more positive aspects, you actually change your brain chemistry too, don't you?
Yes. Well, a prime example that I always use to demonstrate how sight and sound affect your chemistry in your body is just think about the last time a police car pulled up behind you with its siren. Okay?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, because, your heart starts racing, you want to throw up because of the adrenaline, So sight and sound, no matter how blatant or subtle, can create a biochemical change in your body.
The advertising industry uses that a lot, too, to get you to move through quickly like in a fast food restaurant, or to stay and browse like in a grocery store. That reminds me, I wanted to ask you about reading labels as you're looking for more healthy nutrition and you're looking to better your pantry. How effective is it to read the labels? Because the reason I ask is because I know some labels don't quite tell you all the truth.
No, hardly any of them. One, from a food point of view, you want to look for OSE endings of words. That indicates it's a sugar. And you don't want to bring excess sugar into your system. Corn syrup solids, high fructose corn syrup, sugar, 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 poison, 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 poison.
And it's everywhere.
It is. It's everywhere. You really have to be very discerning about what you put in your body. And
the other part of that is once you understand that this comes under so many different names.
Oh, my God. It's like natural flavors, right? So many natural flavors are MSG, and we all know MSG is horrible. You shouldn't bring it into your system. So you've got to read labels, and where there are chemicals that you don't understand, either look them up or get a more natural product. 100% whole grains, organic fruits and veggies. You won't have to worry about it. When it comes to your meats, get grass-fed critters. When it comes to fowl, you're going to want to do chicken over turkey or turkey over chicken because turkey has less fat. When it comes to seafood, I recommend, go back to Leviticus, chapter 11, deep-sea fish with scales. No shrimp, no shellfish, no freshwater fish. You don't know where the water's been in this country. So much of it is contaminated with pharmaceutical drugs because people take them and urinate them out or throw them in the commode. So the water system is junked up with pharmaceuticals. So you need to drink clean water. I'm a distilled water advocate. We've had water distillers for the last 45 years. So those are some points.
It's a little depressing when you look at it that way. It's like our food sources have just gone to hell in a handbasket. And
yes, they have.
It's getting harder and harder to find clean nourishment.
Yes, it is. We live near Santa Fe, and we shop. Santa Fe has 2 Whole Foods, a natural grocer, 2 Sprouts, and a co-op. And out of all of them, we find that the co-op has the best assortment of organic vegetables that there is. Whole Foods brags about it, but when you look at their organic veggies, they're more conventionally grown than they are organic. So we always do organic fruits and vegetables. To do anything else is just asking for trouble, if that's your steady diet.
The other thing I want to caution everybody about is the processed foods, the things you don't see as fast food. I mean, it's not one of the restaurants you drive through and get your junk through the window. But we bring home so much processed stuff because we can throw it in the microwave, and the microwave kills anything anyway.
And people.
Yeah, well, that's kind of where I'm going with this. I don't even microwave water anymore, and I used to do it all the time. But the amount of processing that the food goes through just absolutely kills everything. And what it doesn't kill, the microwave gets, yeah? Yep.
And the microwave unnaturally speeds up the atoms in there. That's why if you ever, taste microwaved food or get burnt by it, it's because it's unnaturally hot. It's been stimulated by radio waves and not regular heat. Not a healthy product that comes out of that contraption.
I can remember the first time I ever saw one, I was, I don't know, maybe 14 years old, and a lady cooked bacon on a paper plate, and I just couldn't believe it. I thought it was the most miraculous thing I had ever seen, and I thought it, what a boon to mankind, but boy, it sure isn't.
No, not when you get into the science behind it. And, man and his intellect, we think we're so smart and we've got this going and that going, and the reality is that our intelligence is leading us down a very destructive, polluted path, because all of these electronics, they came out yesterday. Tomorrow they're going to be obsolete. Where is all that going? It's going into the landfills. And then the chemicals are being leached out because water does that. When it rains, it rains. And as it drips down, it's pulling these chemicals into the water tables. And it's just an unhealthy mess that we're in. And the only thing that people can do is minimize their waste, recycle everything they possibly can, do your own vegetable, organic garden. And even if you live in an apartment, because we have, we had window boxes, we had, baskets. You can grow tomatoes anywhere. You can grow vegetables pretty much anywhere as long as you've got light, air, and water.
Well, that leads me to another question. If the water table is so polluted, what are we doing when we water these vegetables? Aren't we passing that on? I mean, it just seems like a never-ending chain of nasticity, if you pardon the use of one of my...
No, I love the word. I thought it was fabulous. On my planet, we use it as well.
Good.
Yeah, it is necessity. It's unfortunate. The only thing you can do is to protect yourself and your loved ones by eating clean, thinking clean, drinking clean, and taking a high-potency supplement on a daily basis. And if not daily, at least 5 days out of 7. And, take a Sabbath. Let your body rest for 2 days. Then go back into it.
I think the key to all of this is one of my favorite expressions, and all of my students and clients know it so well. It's called conscious awareness.
Amen. Amen. And Chessie, that is, maintaining a continuous conscientious awareness is a very difficult thing. However, you can learn to do that. Your mind will talk to you. It will give you symbols, which is what I do. I interpret everything from a symbolic point of view. And if you have eyes to see and ears to hear, you will know what is going on in your life and what it is you need to do to make your life whole and complete, happy and harmonious.
Right, and if your guidance is screaming something at you like they did with me and sugar, listen to them.
They know what they're talking about.
They do. They do. I don't know, and, it kind of throws me that this happened to me, but I understand now why it happened. But even as aware as I try to be all the time, every once in a while we just don't listen because we are people and we have egos, and sometimes they get in the way, I think. But if something doesn't feel right, don't do it. If something is nagging at you, examine that. See why it's nagging at you. See what you can do to make it be quiet and fix it. So pay attention. My other favorite thing I tell everybody, and everybody who knows me is saying this with me right now, is wake up and pay attention. And if something doesn't feel right in your body, if something is reacting adversely to what it used to, things aren't just like they should be, go in there and talk to your body. Find out what's going on. And
absolutely.
Pay attention to it.
Yeah, your mind will tell you.
Absolutely. The other thing that I use a lot, and it just popped into my head, is muscle testing. And if you can learn how to do that, it's not hard, and I teach it, and I imagine Michael does too. you can hold something in your hand and do a muscle test, and your body will tell you whether it's good for you or not. And if it tells you no, put it back on the shelf.
Yep.
And that's how I handle those words that I don't know what mean. When I'm reading labels, if my body gives me a no response to that, I put that sucker back. I don't care how enticing the label might be.
Yeah, or how pretty the box.
Right.
Yeah,
or how many of my friends like it.
Yeah. And there's some products on the health food store that there's nothing bottle. The potency is so low. I tell people, excuse me, you're better off eating the box. At least that way you'll get some fiber.
I've heard that too. I was talking to my brother about this health issue that brought me to you, and I was explaining to him how I was eliminating certain things, and my big thing was processed food. So he started telling me about this delicious jar of sauce that he got from his store and how much I would love it and all that. I said, honey, it's in a jar. It's been processed. I'm not touching it.
Yeah, people don't understand. They don't understand what processing means in terms
it means
of
added chemicals, and as my daughter always says, it's a chemical shitstorm coming your way.
Yep.
And it's a mess. Michael, I have so enjoyed this conversation with you. It has been so enlightening, and I'm just going to tell you guys, go back and listen to it again and again and again and take all the meat out of it that you can and listen to what we're telling you, because it's so important. If your life's not going right and something's off, start with your diet. 9 times out of 10, that's where the problem starts.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything you want to leave them with, Michael, before we sign off?
No, just, get yourself well so that you can participate in being the living light that you are, and everyone will see how you shine, your healthy glow, and turn them on to good nutrition.
And on top of all of that, you'll actually feel better.
Amen.
Guarantee it. Don't hang up, Michael. I want to talk to you. I'm sorry?
I was going to say it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Don't ring off. I want to talk to you after we wrap. But I want to thank everybody for joining us on the show today, frogs and tongues wrapped around eye teeth notwithstanding. Please join us next time for the next edition of Get on the Grid with Chessie. I want to thank you also for sending in your questions and suggestions for topics that you'd like for me to cover on the show. And any of you who want to can send your question, your suggestion, or request to me at chessieroberts.com. And you can find all of my information at chessieroberts.com. My music is at archersmeadow.com, and my book, Evolving into Self from the Puppet to the Master, My Evolution from the Cradle to the Grid, is on Amazon.com. And just so you know, I've got several books waiting in the wings to go to editing and publishing and all that sort of thing. And I've got a GoFundMe project going to help me pull the funds together to do that. And if you would like to donate to that, that would just be awesome. You can find that on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Spiritual Networks. So thanks for your help in advance. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Come back anytime to hear Get on the Grid with Chessie Roberts. Have a great week. Bright blessings. Bye-bye.